What happened in Flint, Michigan is really kind of a culmination of a 13-year journey where, I started out as a normal professor and just trying to do my job, and in a million years I never thought that the environmental policemen that we pay to protect us at water utilities and the scientists and engineers would betray the public trust like they did. And it was a very traumatic experience initially. At first, I literally could not believe my eyes, what I learned in Washington, D.C. But then I started, studying the history of science and the humanities and ethics, and, I realized that's what we do. We're humans, we screw things up. And, to some extent, science and engineering is a tool where if it's used properly, we can more often than not get to the truth. But if it's used improperly, a lot of people can get hurt. And unfortunately, that's what happened in Washington, D.C. I saw fraudulent reports being written, science that was unethical going out and causing health harm because people had the wrong information. And eventually, by the time I got to Flint, Michigan, I learned a thing or two. I learned that you have to act quickly to protect children, or else it's too late. You have to call people out. You have to fight. You have to fight for the truth. And that's what we did, and we were pretty successful at it. And it's an amazing story, actually, of all these heroic people in Flint, first and foremost. As I said, Leanne Walters and the parents who fought for their kids, fought for the truth, to learn what was happening to their children and to their city. But then other outside actors, the EPA employee, the young doctor I worked with, our team came in, we did our part, reporters helped out. And so in some ways it's a story of hope, but the hope comes from people taking a stand. We just gave a commencement address at Virginia Tech, Dr. Mona and myself, and we really spoke to millennials, and we said, it's up to you. You're currently the biggest generation in U.S. history, but we need our millennials to become the greatest generation in U.S. history. And I think this story really speaks to them. It speaks to the power of science and engineering to do good, but also to hurt. And that's what's so amazing about the experience and why the story is so compelling. It hits you at many, many different levels. The danger of being a practicing engineer is you forget your altruism and you forget all the reasons you became an engineer and a scientist, all the good that you wanted to accomplish. Because what institutions teach us, and frankly what life teaches us, unfortunately, is to become cynical and to become willfully blind. And if you are not careful, no one gets up in the morning wanting to poison and destroy a city. But that's what will happen if you are not on your guard. We are just one bad mistake away as engineers and scientists from doing something horrible, something that we regret for the rest of our lives. So you need to remember why you got into the field, all the good that you wanted to do, and do not become cynical, do not become willfully blind, and have this moral humility. I mean, if you do not have humility as an experienced engineer and scientist, you really ought to ask yourself, what have you learned? Because, again, you are one bad mistake away from doing something horrible. Well, there's an incredible opportunity to come in now and do good. Now realize the system, unfortunately, does make you cynical and willfully blind. I mean, we have these young people come into our field and they're all excited to change the world, and then, in their first week on the job, the older engineers are saying, no, I'm sorry, that's not how it works around here. Well, why do you accept that? So first off, do not listen to the old people who have become cynical and willfully blind, because it's always been the case that a few dedicated individuals are the ones who change the world. And so that's why I always say it's only those people who the world does not change who are going to change the world. So keep your altruism, keep your aspirations, and do not let anyone tell you that that's not how we do things around here. We need to be much more aggressive about talking about unethical behavior, things that we all know are happening not only in our institutions, but across society. And as I mentioned in today's talk, that, what kind of world is it where good, heroic people are destroyed at these agencies and weak, unethical cowards are left in charge? And why do we run our agencies this way? It's because they value loyalty to the institution before they value loyalty to the human race. When did scientists and engineers buy into that? Okay, where does that, how can we reconcile that with the first canon of civil engineering? No, the first canon, really does say it all. I mean, we should be pursuing science and engineering and seeking truth or helping people. And if there's any other reason, you can't always do that, but if there's any other motivation, you ought to be very careful and be questioning yourself.